Hello and welcome to this special edition of Talktime Assam Election Special. My guest today is Mr. Baijayant Panda, National Vice President of the BJP and party in charge for Assam. Mr. Baijayant Panda, welcome to my show.
Thank you.
You have been a Lok Sabha MP twice. You had been in the Rajya Sabha for a decade. My question to you, how do you find the election atmosphere in Assam?
It's electrifying and it's unique because, all over the country, we had in earlier years got used to the idea that political parties, once they get into government, they cannot deliver and therefore there is anti-incumbency. But here, there is pro-incumbency. Now this is interesting because we have already seen this happen at a national level. Prime Minister Modi ji is enormously popular, as everybody knows. Polls show him as the most popular democratic leader in the world. Now, he has beaten the so-called phenomenon of anti-incumbency at a national level. But at a state level, this is still an emerging phenomenon. And in my 3 months in Assam, I'm seeing tremendous support. The environment is very much in favor of the BJP NDA government here in the state. And so this pro-incumbency and the electrifying environment is something that is very exciting and it's unique.
Right, and you have yourself said that the Mahol is very much in favor of the BJP, and you have been exuding confidence. Other leaders in the state, top leaders in the state, have been exuding confidence. Your party leaders. Now the question is, your critics are saying that you are being overconfident.
Well, that is the job of critics, but the critics' credibility is quite damaged if you see who is criticizing. I would point your viewers in the direction of the opinion polls. Now, there are several opinion polls that have come out, both at a national and a state level.
Right.
And even the most negative one gives us a clear majority. And the more optimistic ones give us a 2/3 majority or more. So I would say that this is not our optimism or our overconfidence. This is something that is reflected in the people's mood. We respect it and we treat it humbly. And as you can see, we are not stopping our efforts.
Right.
Our top leaders, I keep making a point, the Prime Minister himself has visited the Northeast about almost 45 times.
Absolutely.
That is more than all previous Prime Ministers put together. And also our leaders here, the Chief Minister, Sarvanand Sonowal ji, the Finance Minister, Dr. Himant Biswa Sharma and others, they are working round the clock. So we treat it humbly and this is not overconfidence.
Now you must have done your own assessment, but why should the people of Assam vote the BJP for power, BJP back to power? This is the question everybody wants to know. You have your own reasons. We'd like to hear it from you.
That's a good question. And we have thought about it a lot and we have summarized it in a phrase that lists 3 items. The 3 themes, the 3 planks of our campaign is summarized by Suraksha, Samriddhi and Sanskriti. Now what that means is, if you look at Suraksha, the law and order situation, the dramatic improvement in Assam. See, compare what the situation used to be in earlier decades and in the 15 years by the Congress government just before us. Not just general law and order. We had Bodo Accords earlier, but only now you have seen large numbers of rebels have laid down huge cache of arms. They have participated in the process. So that is Suraksha. If you look at Samriddhi, look at the amount of work that is going on in railways, in drinking water projects, in highways. I keep giving this example that when I first came here and I drove from Silchar to Karimganj, it took about an hour and a half. And people tell me that until a few years ago, until just 2 or 3 years ago, until this road was built, it used to take more than 4 hours. And this is a story throughout the state, even not just on highways, but on panchayat roads. Look at the story of DBT. Reaching across lakhs of households in Assam, the Arunodaya scheme, for instance. Look at the cut down in corruption. Everybody knows the scandal of the APSC and how talented young Assamese boys and girls had to pay huge bribes to get jobs. That has changed. Third thing, Sanskriti. The whole entire politics of Assam for many decades has revolved around the swamping of Assamese culture. Now look at what is being done, the revival of the Namghars, which is the core of the Assamese ethos. I can give many other examples, but the three planks is what people are voting for us.
Now, 2016 was totally different because the Congress government was in power for 15 years. There was anti-incumbency had set in. But now, it's different. My question is, Ms. Baijayant Panda, is that can you honestly dismiss the grand alliance of the Congress, AIUDF and the BPF, because combined together in 2016, they had won as many as 51 seats?
Let me put this to your viewers. Now, this so-called Grand Alliance has existed in some form or other in UP, in Bihar, and you can see their fate. Now, here also, very recently, in about 2.5 months ago, you had elections in the BTR, in the Bodo areas. And this alliance existed because you had already Congress and UDF. And I think out of about 40 odd seats, they only got 1 seat. So I think the demonstration is there that people are not accepting it. And let me point out something else. This is very important. Now, for decades, when the late Tarun Gogoiji was alive, he ensured that the Congress shunned the UDF because of their radical image, because of their, there was a distaste for it, which continues among large sections of the Assamese people. Now that they have come out openly, they have done similar things out of desperation in other states. In Bengal, for instance, Congress has entered into an alliance with a similar radical party, the ISF, which even senior national Congress leaders are criticizing. Anand Sharma ji has spoken about it. So this is sheer desperation. So yes, I think if your viewers analyze the situation, they will recognize that the people of Assam are rejecting this.
So you are totally dismissing the Grand Alliance. It is not going to be any threat to the BJP-led combined.
See, I will put it this way. This is a totally open communalization. They are trying to polarize a certain section of the demographic. Now, where there is a concentration of that demographic, which is based of immigrants, they already had a certain strength, and I think it will only emphasize that aspect. But I think it is repulsive to the majority of Assamese throughout the rest of Assam, and that is the feedback that we are getting.
So, the Congress in Assam, according to you, were under compulsion to tie up with the AIUDF because of its depleting strength. Is your assessment?
Look, compulsion is not the right word, because you have choices. You can choose to do the right thing. Instead of choosing to do the right thing, you are choosing to do the wrong thing.
Compulsion,
I will say desperation.
Desperation.
I will say desperation, because they have launched a farcical campaign called Assam Bachao. The answer to that is, bhai, pehle Congress bachao. Look at the state of the Congress. It is collapsing everywhere, and Assam is no exception. Everybody knows the state of the Congress here. So it's sheer desperation. But you can react to desperation differently. There was a time when BJP had only 2 seats nationally. How did we react? We didn't become desperate. We didn't make such silly anti-national moves. We focused on connecting with the people of India and gradually delivering on our promises and building up. Instead of doing that, Congress is getting increasingly more and more radicalized.
In the past month, we have seen topmost leaders of the BJP, your party, visiting Assam. The Prime Minister had made 3 personal visits. Physically, he was present. Once he was present virtually. Now he is supposed to address 6 to 7 more rallies in the days ahead. Now, what does it signify in your view, or do you think this is the norm in your party for top leadership to come during elections?
That's the correct answer. It is the norm, because it is, you will see the Prime Minister, the Home Minister Amit Shah ji, our National President JP Nadda ji, Rajnath Singh ji, Gadkari ji, they go to all campaigns in every state. Now, this may seem odd to some of our opponents in Assam.
Because your opponents, particularly the Congress, is saying the BJP is perturbed this time, worried, and that is forcing your top leaders to come again and again to poll-bound Assam.
Let me put it this way. If you look at the BJP's track record, in every state, our top leadership goes to campaign, because we take it seriously. Our leaders work 24/7. The Prime Minister works 24/7. He doesn't jet off for holidays to Europe and Italy, unlike some opposition leaders. So, and particularly when it comes to Assam and Northeast, I'll again emphasize, the Prime Minister, this is not just an election thing. for last 6 years, the whole state of Assam has seen how many times the Prime Minister has come here. And as I said, to the Northeast, the Prime Minister has come 45 times almost, which is more than all previous Prime Ministers put together. So this is not just an election thing. Whereas, please check these Congress leaders who are now showing up, how often they visited in the last 5 years.
Absolutely. It's the norm. That's what Mr. J. Panda is saying for top BJP leaders to visit poll-bound states, whether it is Assam or whether it was elsewhere in the country. On that note, we go for a short break. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm in conversation with Mr. Baijayant Panda, BJP National Vice President and Party in charge for Assam. Extremely busy man these days in view of the upcoming elections. Mr. J. Panda, we have not seen this time political parties, including your party, directly talk about illegal influx from Bangladesh in election rallies. Why am I asking this question is because since the post-Assam Accord elections in 1985, every election influx has been the issue. This time, of course, there are other related issues, but nobody is directly talking about influx.
We are, but let me point something out. First of all, there has been a dramatic improvement in the border control, in the reduction of this illegal immigrants influx. I'll give you 2 or 3 examples. So the border fencing, which was taken very lightly by previous governments, has seen enormous work. Our campaign, which is ongoing, which shows tab or ab on various issues, you will see the contrasting pictures, the visuals of totally open borders where people used to walk in at will, now with proper fencing. As you are aware, hardly 7 or 8 kilometers are left of the border fencing. Right. So this is a dramatic improvement. Secondly, I think the people of Assam are aware that certain areas where you could not have fencing, such as on the river banks. Now we have, because of physical limitations, you can't have fencing. We have deployed Israeli laser technology for detection and virtual fencing to stop. And the government, this government in the last 5 years, under the leadership of Modi ji at the central level and the BJP NDA government here in Assam, has very, very strongly cracked down on illegal immigration, which is why there has been a dramatic improvement. So this I think is obvious to all people. It doesn't get talked about very much, but we have made it very clear in our campaign slogan. We keep pointing out that the other parties don't even have an intent to stop illegal immigration. They've been talking about it for decades and nothing has happened. BJP is the only party, the NDA government is the only government here which not only has the intent but has shown dramatic results. And that is why I think this issue is being talked about, but not as much as earlier.
Influx, as you have also said, is not talked about, but there are other issues that are being talked about. For example, the Congress and the AIUDF are saying, okay, our grand alliance is basically we have succeeded in bringing all the Anti-Citizenship Amendment Act forces together. And my question to you, to what extent is CA going to be a factor in these elections, or is it not going to be a factor at all?
You know, in the previous couple of years, there was a lot of misrepresentation by some of our opponents who have been blatantly hypocritical about it. The Congress, including the former Prime Minister who was elected from Assam, Dr. Manmohan Singh, they have spoken on identical lines on what kind of law is required to give Indian citizenship to those who are persecuted elsewhere. Now, during the CAA introduction about 14-15 months ago, remember the kind of misrepresentation that took place, that 1.5 crore people will come in from a neighboring country, they will take away jobs in Assam, they will work for 40 or 50 rupees a day instead of 200 rupees a day. All this turned out to be fake. That has not happened. There has not been such infiltration since the NDA government has been in place. And the proof of the pudding is, today, some of the leading lights of those who were agitating 1.5 years ago, they have joined the BJP because they've realized the truth.
True, but there is a counter-argument to that. The counter-argument, yesterday, in my debate last night, an AIUDF panelist who was on the show, he said that if the Citizenship Amendment Act that has been brought about by the NDA government is so good, that it is going to take care of the minorities in our neighboring countries, or for that matter, the Hindus and other Christians and Jews, and Jains and Buddhists in our neighboring countries who wants to come back to India, then why is the BJP not seeking votes, saying that vote us because we have brought the CAA, which is going to be beneficial to some of our people who had nowhere else to go except India?
I think it is understandable that people from the UDF who have openly stood for the illegal immigrant community. The UDF was formed when the IMDT Act was repealed.
Right.
On the basis of a campaign by the man who is today our Chief Minister here. Now, the UDF was formed to represent the interest of illegal immigrants. So, it is natural that they should speak that way. I don't think we should take them very seriously.
Very seriously.
The reality is CAA is something that has been passed by Parliament. The rules have not yet been notified. There are some people who have challenged it in court. So let that process take place. We should not take...
Priyanka Gandhi is saying that we are giving 5 guarantees to the people of Assam. One of them is repealing of the Citizenship Amendment Act. But repeal is possible only when you have the strength in Parliament.
Yeah, so I think this confusion in Congress continues, that they think that national legislation can be repealed by winning a state government election. So I think that shows a lack of understanding. Let me put it this way. The Congress's promises should not be taken seriously. First of all, the leaders don't come here for years at a time. They show up only at the time of election for photo op. And even in the photo op, they don't use the actual photos from Assam. They use photos from other Far Eastern nations.
You are referring to that tea garden.
I think your viewers will understand photograph. What I'm referring to. My point is, look, Congress has had decades running this state and running this country. They have had all the time in the world. They have had generations to implement on their promises. They have been shown for the fakeness. Their promises should not be taken seriously.
What do you think of Maulana Badruddin Ajmal, the chief of the AIUDF? Because some of your top party leaders said that Ajmal is definitely going to be a factor in these elections. Of course, the context is different. How do you see it?
Look, Badruddin Ajmal has been a factor in past several elections because he represents this polarization and communalization of a section of the demographic. And as I said earlier, even the Congress used to keep him at bay with a barge pole, but today they have openly aligned. Now that factor only, I think, further polarizes a certain demographic, but it repulses the vast majority of voters in the vast majority of regions across Assam. That is the sense I got because I traveled around the state. On the ground, I went through about 10 or 11 districts. I visited almost 3 dozen constituencies where I spent time discussing with people. I have been keeping track of surveys and feedback and opinion. So he's a factor in the sense that it's a far more negative factor for that alliance because if you alienate the majority of regions, the majority of people, and you just polarize a certain section of the people, yes, it's a factor, but is it a positive factor? Overall, I think it's negative.
There was a video that surfaced where Badruddin Ajmal was supposed to have been addressing a rally where he's supposed to have said that, if the BJP comes to power in Assam, the Muslims will not be able to offer azans in mosques, calling the people for prayer. What do you think of this kind of statements?
I have not seen that video. I have seen some of the speeches. For example, when Congress and UDF announced their alliance, they made speeches which was covered live on television. There was no editing or cropping or anything. And, the whole tenor of that talk was, I think, made a lot of people very uncomfortable because, you should be able to say that you respect the Constitution and adhere to all aspects of it. You should not be wanting different kinds of laws for different sets of people. Now, in the BJP, although some sections of the media try to unfairly paint us in a wrong way, we have no hesitation saying sabka saath, sabka vishwas, Sabka Vikas. And we have no hesitation in saying that the constitution is our guiding light.
Absolutely. Now, I have to ask you this question. Assam has 35% Muslims. There are different types of Muslims in Assam. There are the indigenous Assamese Muslims. There are the indigenous Muslims in the Barak Valley. And there are Muslims who are of immigrant descent. Now, I mean, my question is, does the BJP expect Muslim votes as well? Because a lot of people say that in 2016, there's a sizable amount of Muslims also voted for the BJP. Would you expect the Muslims to vote for the BJP, or would you say that, okay, we don't want the Muslim votes?
All over the country, and this includes Assam, as we go forward into the next few years, into the next generation,
right,
you will see larger and larger number of Muslim votes for the BJP. Because under Prime Minister Modi, we have brought about reforms that have long been talked about by reformers, by everybody actually. Now, for example, you take triple talaq reform. Now, there is no reason that Muslim women should have discrimination. They should have the same rights as any Indian woman of any religion. Now, triple talaq reform will liberate, it is just starting to have an effect. It will start lifting the oppression against Muslim women over the next generation, those who come into marriageable age increasingly. So we will definitely see more and more support in the coming years. Now, in the current situation, you are right, there are different demographics among the Muslim population. Now remember, we are very clear, when the schemes that are implemented by either the union government under Modi ji, like Ujjwala scheme, whether it is Arunodoy scheme by the BJP NDA government here in Assam, it doesn't discriminate on religion, it doesn't discriminate on your caste or creed or your anything else. So this fake negative image on BJP that some sections try to paint is gradually wearing away as we have a continued BJP government at the national level under Modi ji and also in Assam. So I will say, in this election itself, I think we will see increased Muslim votes for BJP. I have sensed that when I have been on the ground.
Significant statement there from Mr. Baijayant Panda, who's been touring Assam, said that significant increase in Muslim votes for the BJP even in this election 2021 in Assam. I'll go for another short break. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm still in conversation with BJP leader Mr. Baijayant Panda. Mr. Baijayant Panda, how easy or difficult has it been for your party leadership to select the candidates for 2021 elections in Assam?
Well, BJP is the only party that is truly democratic, and we have become the world's largest party, not because we are run by any family, not because we are run by the same kind of culture as some of our opponents, but because we have a transparent process. So I think the media must have noticed over the course of last few months, we have had a consultation process starting from the grassroots, starting from the booth and mandal level, taking feedback from BJP Karyakartas about our each constituency and the potential candidates. We have taken feedback from the district level Karyakartas and the office bearers. We have taken feedback from the state level office bearers and Karyakartas, and this has been discussed at a national level. And then finally it goes to our Central Election Committee under the Parliamentary Board. So you cannot have a more transparent process. And we have, I think, got an excellent list of candidates doing very, very well suited for the requirement. Now, of course, because we are in such a dominant position, there are a lot of aspirants. And it's made clear that we can only give a ticket to one person, can't give to more than one. It's only natural that some people may be a little disappointed. But the vast majority of them are committed BJP Karyakartas, and they accept it in the right spirit. And I keep getting asked this question, so I will point your viewers, look at the situation of what is happening in Congress, look at the situation of what is happening in other parties, because their process is not transparent, it is not democratic, it is based on the whims and fancies of a certain select group of people or families. And so there is no comparison.
Now, you see, even in your party, 2-3 of your party candidates denied tickets. They have quit and they are in the fray. For from different parties or as independents. For example, Dilip Paul, the deputy speaker and your sitting MP in Silchar, was denied a ticket. He has quit and he has said that he is contesting as an independent. Sum Ronghang was a minister in Assam. He was denied ticket in Diffu and he has joined the Congress. He is now a Congress candidate. So do you think broadly, do you think this will have at least a slight impact, or do you think these are not going to have any impact at all?
So you have given two examples, and I can give you hundreds of other aspirants who ultimately did not get a ticket. Because as I explained, in our transparent consultative process, the name chosen was the best suited considering various inputs and various factors. And so 99% of those people have accepted this with good grace and have committed themselves to continue working as BJP Karyakartas. So one or two odd examples, I think, do not reflect the reality. And as I said, compare with other parties, they are in very desperate straits. Very senior national leaders are quitting because they have not been treated fairly. So I would say
PC Chako has quit in Kerala.
It's just every day or every week you see very senior leaders quitting other parties for this reason, because they are in it for power and pelf. In the BJP, our culture imbibes in us, it is drilled into us from top to bottom that our hierarchy of intent is nation first, party second, and self or family last. So, as I said, there is no comparison.
Now we discussed the Muslims, which is also a large population. The second large population is the tea community in Assam, the tea tribes. Now, Priyanka Gandhi came, she toured some of the places. She said that among her 5 guarantees is the hike in tea wages to rupees 365. Now, your party has recently increased 50 rupees from 167. The tea wages have become 217 rupees. But the Tea Tribe Students Union, which is an apex student group of the tea community, has declared a shutdown, that is a band, on the 22nd of March, saying that we have not been treated well, and the 217, the hike has not actually been implemented. It was only done on the eve of the elections to appease the people. That is the charge. Now, what do you think of these two things? One, Priyanka Gandhi saying that, Congress for that matter, saying that hike of wages will be as high as 365, and the Tea Tribe Students Union saying that whatever hike the BJP has given recently, that has not been actually implemented.
So, first and most important, the hike is going to be implemented. You are right, the hike was done only recently, and that is because there is again a lot of consultation process. And you have to find the right balance, because you do not want to have a situation where the hike is to a level which is economically unviable. You don't want gardens to shut down. So to find the sweet spot where the tea garden mazdoor get the optimal, the maximum wages that is economically sustainable, that is why the effort was going on. But it is not symbolic. It will be implemented. The decision was taken while there is no restriction such as code of conduct.
Right.
So it will be implemented. There is no question about that. Now, again, regarding Congress promises, I would urge your viewers to see through the fakeness of that party, because if the leaders of that party don't turn up for 5 years, suddenly on the eve of the election they turn up and they start making promises, then that promise should not be taken so seriously. The vast majority of the tea community, the tea garden community, are happy with this, and they know that it will be implemented. And I don't think that they are getting carried away by these fake guarantees of the Congress.
Right. Now, Dr. Himanta Biswa Sharma has given a huge momentum to the BJP. Even before the election dates were announced, he had begun his padayatras and road shows. What do you think? Do you think the other parties are going to even catch up with this kind of a momentum in the days ahead? What is your view?
Himanta ji is a tremendous asset for the BJP, and his energy and his organizational ability, his administrative ability, you can see in the contribution he has made to the BJP NDA government here under Chief Minister Sonowal and under the guidance of Prime Minister Modi. So Himantaji's contribution, I have been seeing his bicycle rallies, his moving around the state, as I said, is an enormous asset. Now, about other parties, again, I'll say the following. First of all, look at the Congress. I think it's no secret that since the passing of the late Tarun Gogoiji, the Congress itself probably is not as united as it should be. Probably they are not all working together in tandem. Secondly, the allies that they have, such as the UDF, they have a single point agenda. And as I have said before, that agenda only reiterates their existing support for a certain demographic, but I think it repulses the rest of the state. Now, they don't have a leader, any of the opposition parties, who mobilizes the cadre or who mobilizes the public across the state like our leaders do, like Himantaji does, like others do.
Finally, Mr. Jayapanda, what lesson have you learned personally in course of the last 3 months and during this particular election campaign?
So first of all, I'm loving Assam, and I must tell you that I'm very grateful to the BJP's top leadership for giving me this assignment. The people are wonderful. I love the landscape. It's a beautiful state. I love the food. I feel at home also because there are certain similarities in culture from between my home state, Odisha and Assam. But Assam also has this cosmopolitan angle because it has influences from various kinds of cultures, with the tribal cultures and other aspects. Also, it's a border state. We are surrounded by other countries. So there is this whole mix is wonderful. I'm grateful for this assignment, and I think the people of Assam have had a very good government, and this will continue in the coming years. The BJP NDA government will deliver the promises that we have been making.
Yeah, Mr. Jayapanda, thank you very much for giving time to me, and wish you all the best in the days ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you.